Hello, this is NextUP by GamePlanU. My name is Grace Hawes. You all may not recognize me because this is actually my first time on the podcast, but I am currently a senior on the lacrosse team at the University of Florida, and I'm here with Charlotte, Lexi, Clayton, and Donovan, some other current UF students. And we're going to start by just introducing each of us real quick. So Charlotte, do you want to begin?
Yes, thank you, Grace. Hi, everyone. My name is Charlotte Harmon. I'm a junior attacker on the women's lacrosse team, and I'm excited for this podcast today.
Lexi?
Hi, I'm Lexi. I'm a sophomore here at University of Florida, a former women's lacrosse player here.
Clayton?
Hi, I'm Clayton Brown. I'm a part of the track and field team here at the University of Florida. I'm currently a senior and I'm excited for this podcast.
And Donovan?
Hi, everyone. I'm Donovan Steiner. I'm a senior safety on the football team here at the University of Florida, and I'm excited for the podcast.
Okay, and today we're going to be discussing how we have dealt with coronavirus these past several months through the eyes of being a student athlete. And feel free to ask any questions in the chat, or you can save them for the end, and let's get started. So the first question is, starting with the beginning of coronavirus, how did it affect all of our spring semesters? I can start this one out. So personally, our season was actually cut short because our season is in the spring. So it was kind of hard figuring out what to do from there and kind of figuring out what we're going to be doing over the summer and how our training is going to continue. And it was also kind of hard to like stay engaged with everybody during that time because we weren't having practices or meeting every day. So that was a little bit tough.
For me, it was extremely hard because we were at our national indoor championship and it was literally about 12 hours before we start competition. And they just shut everything down and send everybody home. So our season was cut short. We didn't have a national championships and we didn't have an outdoor season. And we had to like go home and we weren't in contact with our coach, didn't have any facilities to practice. So it was really tough.
Yeah, well, for me, football season is in the fall, but an important part of preparing for the fall season is spring because we have like pretty much a month period where we're having practices, like fully padded practices, which was all canceled. And so, we never got a chance to, well, spring practice is like the first time that we practice as a team with a new team. So we never got a chance to, see what our new team would look like. And all the newer guys never got a chance to, learn the playbook and stuff like that. So it was really hard for us. And, we're still making up for it.
For us, I remember we had just beat Navy and we were preparing for our upcoming game against Brown, and we were deciding how to travel, and we were going to be using a reduced number of girls. And it was difficult going into that game because of all the uncertainty happening. And then just when everything was announced, it was just devastating, and the seniors were really upset. And from that point on, it was about deciding whether or not to go home, because for me personally, I live an hour outside of New York City, and at the time it was the epicenter, so it was a little nerve-wracking deciding that.
I'm sorry, you can go.
I understand with you, Charlotte, because I was a senior last year, and when they took our indoor and then canceled outdoor, I was kind of in because we didn't know if we would have like a senior season or if they would allow us to come back next year. But they did eventually allow us to come back next year, but I still do not have an indoor. So I didn't have an indoor national championship, and I don't have an indoor next season. So I understand what you're going through.
Yeah, I feel like that was the hardest part for me, was seeing how upset the seniors were that our season was cut short. And also it's kind of tough, all the work you put into like the fall and workouts in the fall and over break and everything, and then everything getting taken away and you don't get any more games or no championship or anything like that. That was kind of tough.
I feel like one aspect of it that was difficult too was like, not only was everything, like we had no idea what was going on with COVID. We still like didn't even know what the disease was in a sense. It was when it was just hitting. And so I remember we were like okay, are we going to postpone this like 2 weeks and then start again after that? Or is this going to be like an indefinite thing? We were so confused. And so that was one of the aspects of it where we just had no idea what was going on. And just the uncertainty was definitely a big part of it that was difficult.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that part was really tough for me too, because like Charlotte was saying, I'm from Houston, so it's kind of far away. So, thinking that it was just going to be postponed for 2 weeks, I was like, I don't know if I should go home or not, because that's pretty far to just be going without knowing when I'm going to be able to come back and stuff like that. So, yeah, like it was really nerve wracking, and it was like all the uncertainty was just really stressful for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And then also going into the next question, during the 2020-2021 school year when we came back, I'm sure it was a lot of shock for everybody about the COVID protocols and how they impacted our daily routine and training. So I guess we can just talk a little bit about that.
For us, I feel like it wasn't really that much of a change. Really, the only protocols that we had to change were like doing temperature checks, wearing masks all the time in facilities, and just doing smaller group activities. But I think everyone can agree that just the pros of keeping people safe by doing those protocols as opposed to like not wearing masks and maybe being able to like hug your friend. I don't know, like that's such a small instance, but like I think that the pros definitely outweigh the cons, and we'd rather take safety measures than risk that.
I think for me, the biggest struggle with the protocol for Corona was the LEM and treatments. When we go to our other facility for treatments and just seeing our trainers and everything, it's kind of difficult to work around their time and every other team using the same facilities time in order to meet with our trainer and get treatments because only a certain amount are inside at one point.
Yeah, it was hard for us because we kind of had like a time crunch on practice. So we have a really big team, so we have to like schedule our practice throughout the day. And if we can't allow practice to go over a certain number of time because other people are coming. So I think the time crunch was the hardest for me.
I think ours was, I wouldn't say drastic, but it was a really big adjustment. Just we couldn't even use our facility, like the weight room facility at all. They had to completely move everything over to our indoor practice facility. And, we usually do everything as a team, like all of our workouts and runs and stuff. And they had to cut that down just to spread us out and stuff like that. So we were doing everything in like small groups, which is really weird for us. And, it was a change, but I think as it went on, we got used to it, and just having hopes that we would have a season, it all motivated us and stuff like that. But I'm glad that we did take those precautions, and I feel like it was we did a great job, keeping everyone safe for the most part.
As you were saying, Donovan, I agree with the whole team aspect being altered. And one thing that was hard for me was not being able to be with my entire team in the locker room. And we have a pretty big team as well. But now we have to limit it to a certain number of girls. And before practice and games, we would typically be playing music and having a great time before we would go out on the field. But now we're not able to do that. So it's hard to sometimes find that motivation and the team collaboration when you're not able to all join together and hug each other like Lexi was saying earlier.
Yeah, that's a good point, Charlotte. That kind of moves into our next question. How does COVID how did the outbreaks of COVID in the fall affect your team and you personally?
For me, personally, it affected me a lot because it was a lot of uncertainties coming up. And, as a senior, you're getting ready to look for your future beyond college or in the professional life. And that affected me a lot because I didn't know what to expect next year in the spring for our team, basically. So it affected me a lot. And for the practice wise, it's a big team, and coach always texts us every day and says, stay away from, if you're not your roommates, stay away from your teammates. And, that's tough to have a teammates and you can't even see them outside of practice, or is only a certain number of people you can see when you're at practice. So it gets kind of lonely sometimes. You can't hang out with your friends how you want. So I think it's really tough.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Being a senior, with this being my last season here, I can remember like going through fall camp, we're practicing and stuff like that when we don't even know if we're actually having a season. So, sometimes it felt like we were practicing for no reason and stuff like that. I remember it was like all the way up until a week before the game, we still didn't know if we were actually going to have a game or not. So, just being able to still practice and be motivated without knowing the immediate future, it was tough, but I mean, it kind of worked out. But recently, we've been impacted by it with the outbreak and having to shut down for 2 weeks. So I think it's just adversity after adversity, but I think it's helping everyone be tougher, have a tougher mindset, and overcome adversity. And I think at the end of all this, it'll just make everyone stronger.
That's kind of the same with us. We had an outbreak as well last month, I want to say, and that really impacted our training and put us behind a little bit because we did have to follow quarantine and isolation procedures after our outbreak. And so that affected our training by putting us back almost a month, I want to say. But in the end, it all worked out and we're back training again. But that was a tough period of time for sure.
Yeah, going off of that, Grace, I think it was difficult when our outbreak did happen because there was a little bit of like trying to pinpoint like who was the first case and then how was that transferred to everyone else. And it didn't want to be a blame game because we're all teammates, but it was really hard to control the situation and it did put us back quite a bit. And so at the end of the day, the coaches care so much about our health, but they're also just disappointed at the same time because everyone wanted to be out playing together so badly, and it felt like we were waiting for months and months on end. But luckily now we're able to get together and be in the new moment.
Clayton, is your family still living in Jamaica?
Yes, my family is still in Jamaica. I haven't seen them in a year and a half. So even during the outbreak, I could not go home because Jamaica has closed their borders. So I mean, emotionally and physically, it was tough on me being here by myself. I know I had the support of my teammates and my coaches, and I have a few family here that really helped me. But my parents and my siblings are still down there, and I haven't seen them yet. So it's really tough on me.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I say that it was tough on us, but I'm literally from 2 hours from here. So I can't imagine having a family in a different country and having to go through that just alone in Gainesville.
We can move on to the next one. Oh, this is a good one. What are some strategies or activities you have used to stay motivated and on top of your game during quarantine? Charlotte, you want to start off with that one?
Yeah, that'd be great. I like this question a lot too because I think it's changed over the course of the entire quarantine. And when I went home, I was able to use the equipment in my garage, but my access to my high school turf field was not available. And that was really tough for me because I wasn't able to do the sprint training or shoot on a goal or anything like that. So I tried to do a lot of different workout stuff. And luckily our lift coach actually sent us over a program to do. But I was also looking at online videos and trying to figure out ways to keep it as a variety instead of having every single day like Groundhog Day. So now that I've had that challenge with trying to determine what I should be doing as a workout, I think it's so great being back on campus and having actual training and people telling you what to do.
Yeah, being an athlete here, I feel like we have everything laid out for us. We have an app that tells us when our practices are, when our classes are, so we pretty much don't have to ever make our own schedule. And that was definitely an adjustment going into COVID because we then had to figure out when we were going to do our homework, when we were going to do all of our classes on our own. And one of the biggest strategies that I had for staying motivated and just on top of my game was waking up and making a schedule every single day. And I feel like that's really important just to keep you in the swing of things, especially when you don't have any deadlines in front of you. So that definitely helped me.
Yeah, I agree with you. It gave us the opportunity to grow up basically and take responsibility for everything in our lives and not having the comfort of our coaches or the academic staff to help us. It kind of put us on our own and forced us to be innovative in a way to basically work out without having the nice equipment. You have to find ways and special ways to actually stay in shape around the house. And I think that was unique.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, is you had to be innovative because no gyms were open. We didn't have access to the facilities and everything. So it was kind of tough to stay motivated. But I think one thing that helped me stay motivated was our like daily Zoom calls with our team, because that kind of put me in perspective and kind of got me in the mindset of, yes, we are still coming back and we're going to be training again and we're going to have games and everything coming soon. So it was important to stay motivated and keep working out.
Yeah, similar to what Charlotte said. I spent most of my time working out in my garage at home because that was the only place I could work out, and it was a big adjustment just working out alone. I'm used to working out with all my teammates with something structured. We have our strength staff that tells us everything to do. So that was a big adjustment, and I it was a big challenge for me to keep a positive mindset and stuff like that. But I ended up like kind of what Lexi said, started making a schedule for myself to just keep structure, and I ended up adjusting to it. Well, it was hard at first, but I ended up adjusting to it, and I feel like it ended up making me stronger in the end.
Yeah, I can remember one thing that was funny when I was back home exercising was that instead of having teammates, I tried to rely on my family to try to get me to stay motivated and also like jump in with whatever I was doing. So sometimes I would have my mom like doing the online classes that I was in, and she'd be like, "This is really hard." I'm like, "Thank you, mom, for like at least trying." And my dad, I can remember like, when we were just in the backyard, I was just begging him to pass with me, and even my younger brother, and I was just telling him every single day, like, I need someone to pass with me. And so luckily they all chipped in, and it ended up being a good time bonding with my family members.
Yeah, that part was hard for me working out too because we're used to having our strength staff like literally yell at us like while we're working out to motivate us. So when I'm just alone in my garage, it's all quiet and stuff. So that that was a big adjustment for me.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like when COVID hit, the last time I'd worked out on my own and like had to have my own self-motivation was literally the summer before. And so it was definitely an adjustment doing that. But my family really tried to normalize COVID as much as possible. Like my mom would have activities for us. We are all in college, so like coming back home, it was kind of weird for everyone. So my mom would have like Ashby Tavern on Fridays where we would all have family dinner outside. And then my dad would call it like the Ashby Family Gym, and we'd do workouts in the garage like every day. And so they definitely helped COVID not to be so weird. But still, it was still a pandemic. So
That's a good point, Lexi. Okay, next question. What advice would you give to a non-student athlete about how to react to a situation that makes it difficult to do what you're passionate about and also a situation that you have no control over? Donovan, you want to start with this one?
I would say the biggest advice for me would be to just keep a positive mindset because being negative won't fix anything, and it is what it is at the end of the day. So keeping a positive mindset can help you keep a open mind and figure out things to better your situation.
I think it's good to focus on the end goal, not focus on what is going on right in front of you, but focus on what you're working towards. I mean, stressing over it and having anxiety over it would not help the situation because you have no control over it. So I believe that you need to just stay positive and focus on what you can control and do your best at what you can control. So it helps you in the end goal.
Yeah, I would definitely say like focusing on the controllables instead of what you can't control is a really good point that you mentioned, Clayton. And then also just having like a period of time like we did in Queen where you had so much time that you'd never had before to focus on just one thing maybe that you wanted to improve on or one of your passions. And I think it was almost a blessing in disguise at the same time because it was a period of time where you were able to find ways to execute your passion and also maybe explore other passions as well. So I think when you're in a time where you're facing adversity, it's a great time to explore other alternatives and you'll see some things that you never knew you had about yourself.
Yeah, going off of what Charlotte said, I think it is important to try to find other things maybe you're passionate about as well. And also it's just a good time to kind of get better every single day and focus on something you want to get better at and then keep working towards it and just never giving up. And I also like what Donovan said about staying positive because that's really huge in uncertain times and when you're going through adversity. So that was a good point.
Yeah, I'd agree with literally everything that you guys said. And I think one thing important to keep in mind also is that if you are in a situation, like it's not going to be indefinite, it ends at some point. So if it's maybe not going so well and you can't find that positivity to get you through it, like it'll end eventually. So you just have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. So going into the last question, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but maybe we can expand a little more. How has COVID affected your relationship with your teammates and coaches and other staff?
I like this question a lot because I think over quarantine, I was almost assuming that the people that I was closest with on the team, my teammates, were all doing well, and we would check in on each other and we would ask each other how we were doing, and we would say that we miss each other. But then when we came back to campus, we realized that we all were struggling a lot being separated from each other. And it was really nice to see that we all had like a similar experience, but we didn't really know to the full capacity that everyone was going through the same thing. And one of the things I've noticed is that since I've been back at campus, I've been really close with my roommates, but it's been hard connecting with the whole team as a whole because we haven't been able to spend as much time together because we are in these really small pods. And in addition to that, I think with the coaches, like they care so much about our well-being, but it's definitely hard having those one-on-one chats with them all the time like we used to be able to.
I think COVID really allowed you to be grateful for everything that you have, because when we were in the middle of the season and it was such a grind, we're like, oh my gosh, I wish we could have like one day off, whatever. And then COVID hit and we had all days off. Like we couldn't even practice at all. And I remember people were texting in our group message and we're like, oh my gosh, like take me back to this. Like I'd so do sprints right now instead of like not being able to practice at all. Like just little things like that. And so everyone kind of got closer from that. And we were able to connect with each other in more of a personal way, not necessarily just through lacrosse. We were doing like tri-weekly Zoom calls with our coaches and talking about like random things, not even lacrosse. And so it kind of like allowed everyone to see just the human side of everyone rather than the lacrosse player side.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Oh, I'm sorry, you can go.
Okay. I think one point that kind of was hard to grasp was the freshmen coming in, because usually it's so easy for the freshmen to become acclimated and kind of get introduced to everybody because we're spending so much time together from the beginning. But since we were in like smaller groups, the freshmen were kind of by themselves. And so you could kind of tell they were a little uneasy and didn't really feel that welcomed because they were in their own group and we were in our own group. So it was kind of hard to get them kind of comfortable with our team in the beginning.
Yeah, similar to what Lexi said, being apart, I feel like made us all closer because you know, just seeing how fast that football could be taken away from us, it just made us all realize that we can't take anything for granted. So when we got back, we were all just happy to be around each other and be able to go through those, you know, hard workouts together. Stuff that we like you were kind of saying, we used to, you know, wish we could get a day off sometime. Like we'll be tired of working out and wishing we can, you know, just relax sometime. But we had months apart just made us, you know, just appreciate the little things like that.
Yeah, it was tough. It's still tough right now because I feel sometimes I haven't seen some people on my team for weeks because we're so split up and we're not allowed to like hang out outside of practice. So it's really tough on our relationship. And with the coaches, I used to spend a lot of time with my coach and watching videos and stuff. And now we can't do that because we can't be in the facilities with them at the same time. So it really affected us in a very negative way, I would say.
All right. That was it. That was the last question. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed our discussion about Corona, as it definitely has been a huge part of all of our lives these past 4 months. And join us next week for Next Up, brought to you by GamePlanU, for our next discussion, and click the button below to subscribe.